Way back in September of 1995, I was taking my first sabbatical leave from the University of Arizona. I was taking it earlier than expected because throughout my career, I was in a hurry to get things done. I was intent upon writing a book about the ecology and management of North American savannas. So I did, specifically at the University of California in Berkeley. This was the ideal university at which to interact with peers who knew a lot about the subject of my second of 16 books. My sponsor in the Department of Environmental Science Policy and Management at Berkeley mentioned during a casual conversation that he targeted a success rate of about 50% for his work. From conception of an idea through completion of the research and publication in the peer-reviewed literature, my sponsor believed 50% was a reasonable rate of success. A much higher rate indicated he was aiming far too low for a target with his scholarship. If every idea led to publication in the peer-reviewed literature, then he wasn't pushing the boundaries of existing knowledge. On the other hand, a much lower success rate than 50% indicated that his ideas were too wacky for the current state of existing knowledge. I have failed to have several of my ideas reach the gold standard of scientific scholarship. I have never kept track of my rate of success from the idea to the peer-reviewed publication. However, after a couple years' worth of effort, I have had another idea fail to be published. Specifically, a paper on which I collaborated with two other scholars on the topic of aerosol masking has been declined by peer-reviewed journals. We have nonetheless published the paper on ArcSiv and also at Medium. You can find links to the papers at guymcpherson.com coincident upon release of this video. The paper is titled The Largest Elephant in the Room, Aerosol Masking. It was co-authored by Beryl Kaufels-Cermacek and her new spouse, William Kaufels. The paper introduces and describes the aerosol masking effect and then suggests a set of ethical and policy initiatives to address the challenge posed by aerosol masking. We conclude by indicating how to address the difficult societal challenge posed by aerosol masking. Failing to have a paper published is not easy. Years of scholarly work on a research topic that receives far too little attention from the academic community is disappointing. However, our failure to have this particular paper published after peer review provides an opportunity for me to address the subject of failure within a relatively broad framework. First, you're probably familiar with the adage, the perfect is the enemy of the good. If perfection is your goal, you are bound to be disappointed. Perfection, after all, is rarely achieved by us mortal humans. I have frequently encouraged the pursuit of excellence. The pursuit of excellence remains a great idea, especially for those of us who recognize that excellence is rarely achieved. As with perfection, the pursuit matters. As with perfection, the failure to achieve excellence is hardly cause for long-term disappointment. You're probably also familiar with the expression, good enough for government work. What most people fail to realize is that when this expression was coined, government work represented the highest standard. Good enough for government work was something to strive for, and people often failed to achieve this high standard. You might be familiar with a George Carlin skit from 2007. During his final HBO special, stand-up comic Carlin said, quote, "Every child wins, everybody gets a trophy," end quote. Reflecting and commenting on the attitudes of society 15 years ago, Carlin concluded that society had gone off the rails in congratulating children for the simplest of accomplishments and never pointing out when a child failed. The idea that individuals must never fail brings to mind the rise of the Effilism movement. Effil, E-F-I-L, is life spelled backwards, and the people promoting this idea would like to destroy all life on Earth. Not merely human life, but all life. As a result, these idiots cheer for the suicide of others while offering to make no such sacrifices themselves. One of the anonymous leaders of the movement, known for the YouTube channel I Will Not Divulge Because It Disgusts Me, has been encouraging others to commit suicide for more than a decade. His own version of leadership does not extend to his own death, of course. He has deemed himself far too important for that. The idea of effilism, again the desire for the extinction of all life on Earth as promoted by childly cowards, brings to mind a quote from writer and philosopher Edward Abbey, the desert anarchist. Quote, "The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time." End quote. I would suggest the idea extends to women, too. I'll finish with a few lines from Professor Viktor E. Frankl's 1946 book, Man's Search for Meaning, which I have been rereading. Specifically, I will rely upon the 1992 English version. Rather than quoting Frankl in this video, I will instead rely upon part of the preface as written by Harvard University professor of psychology Gordon W. Allport. I'm going to extract from the preface again by Gordon Allport. In this book, Dr. Frankl explains the experience which led to his discovery of logotherapy. As a longtime prisoner in bestial concentration camps, he found himself stripped to naked existence. His father, mother, brother, and his wife died in camps or were sent to the gas ovens, so that, excepting for his sister, his entire family perished in these camps. How could he, every possession lost, every value destroyed, suffering from hunger, cold, and brutality, hourly expecting extermination, how could he find life worth preserving? A psychiatrist who personally has faced such extremity is a psychiatrist worth listening to. He, if anyone, should be able to view our human condition wisely and with compassion. Dr. Frankl's words have a profoundly honest ring, for they rest on experiences too deep for deception. Reading further on in the preface. From this autobiographical fragment, the reader learns much. He learns what a human being does when he suddenly realizes he has nothing to lose except his so ridiculously naked life. Frankl's description of the mixed flow of emotion and apathy is arresting. First to the rescue comes a cold, detached curiosity concerning one's fate. Swiftly, too, come strategies to preserve the remnants of one's life, though the chances of surviving are slight. Hunger, humiliation, fear, and deep anger at injustice are rendered tolerable by closely guarded images of beloved persons, by religion, by a grim sense of humor, and even by glimpses of the healing beauties of nature, a tree, or a sunset. But these moments of comfort do not establish the will to live unless they help the prisoner make larger sense out of his apparently senseless suffering. It is here that we encounter the central theme of existentialism. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. If there is a purpose in life at all, there must be a purpose in suffering and in dying. But no man can tell another what this purpose is. Each must find out for himself, and must accept the responsibility that his answer prescribes. If he succeeds, he will continue to grow in spite of all indignities. Frankl is fond of quoting Nietzsche. He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. As a Jewish prisoner of war for 3 years during the Second World War in Nazi Germany, Frankl was subjected to horrific conditions. He was imprisoned at Auschwitz, Dachau, and other concentration camps. I have quoted him frequently in this space from his signature book, Man's Search for Meaning. He had 31 other books published, too. Specifically, I have often cited these lines from Man's Search for Meaning. Quote, "Between a stimulus and a response is a space. In that space is the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances." End quote. As someone who chose to give up bread to other prisoners as he himself was starving, Frankl was an authority on choosing one's attitude in the most horrific of circumstances. To the extent that any of us has free will, we too can choose our attitude. We can choose to live fully during the midst of a mass extinction event. We can choose to live with love and integrity as the living planet disintegrates around us. Yes, we are going to die. All of us. Let's not hurry along our deaths. Let's not cheer as others struggle to find reasons to carry on. Instead, let us support the pursuit of life and the pursuit of living. Living fully, regardless how many minutes, hours, or months we have. As I have been pointing out lately in response to people constantly asking me how long we have, meaning how long do I have, we each have 3 minutes. And with every breath, we get a reset. Let's appreciate every breath. Every breath.